we are here. It is Sunday night, and we decided to come on and say hey to you guys. Good evening.
Hey!
This is John Young with the Disc Jockey News, and Mitch Taylor with the Disc Jockey News tonight with his fabulous shirt.
Yes, exactly.
Hey, Mitch, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing great, John. How are you?
Doing well. Did some things with the kids today and had some fun with them, and now they're getting ready to get themselves to bed, so it's time to come in and talk shop.
Yes, absolutely. This is Talk Shop Sunday nights.
And we for those of you wondering why we're doing this so late on the East Coast, it's 10 o'clock and such. A lot of it is because both Mitch and I are fathers, and we wanted to spend time today with our children. So if you guys are watching this later, this is why it's going so late this evening. So yeah, we're going to talk in the first section of our show tonight. We're going to talk about serving your clients, and Mitch has got some ideas and such to help you get your head wrapped around that. I think is probably the best way to describe that.
Yeah.
Because I think when we first started that, we didn't look at it quite that way. I think can I say that without being wrong? No, I think it's pretty accurate.
It's very accurate. It's very accurate for me. It's very accurate for others, I'm sure. Just getting started.
Let's kind of differentiate the mindset between, when we first started and we started the DJ thing and we were there doing it, because we wanted to make some money off our music, whatever. And then moving into a serving the client mindset. What kind of things differ between the two?
I think the biggest shift for me was, two things really. It was education and evolvement of our industry as a whole. And then number two, it was coming from a standpoint of how can I help them have a better event, whatever that event might be. And that was a huge shift in thinking for me. I'm not sure who exactly unlocked that key. There have been several people to help unlock that, if you will.
Yeah.
To me, it was those two things. When I say evolvement of the industry, it was the DJA radio podcast. It was Disc Jockey News. It was Northern Disc Jockey Conference. It was Mobile Beat. It was other educational entities that popped up for me. Michael Port, huge. First time I saw him at Northern Disc Jockey Conference, having a velvet rope policy. Michael Port's book, Book Yourself Solid, was a huge influencer for me very early on, starting my business back in 2006. I started up here in 2003, but 2006 was kind of that shift of there had to be something more than just show up, play music, do the announcements, exactly what I was doing before. But I felt something was missing. And I got, frankly, too, I got bored. I don't want to do the same thing over and over again. I was struggling creatively. So serving to me was a big part of the equation of how can I help you have a better event? Is that, and okay, so what do I have to do to dig into that? What's the formula trying to help someone have a better event? Well, first off, to me, it was taking more responsibility for my role in the event. As a master of ceremonies, or as a DJ, even for that matter, you have a mic. You're in charge.
Yeah.
You're the one that has control, or should.
Yep.
Of the room. And so you're in charge. And that's a huge responsibility when you think about that. I just wrote earlier today even about a case of, taking responsibility for the success of the event and how many emotions are going through people. You got the parents, possibly empty nesters, right?
Yep.
Which daughter or son are getting married. And one side could be the first child, and the next, opposite side could be the last child. You don't know. You've got, their close friends who aren't going to have the college party times anymore with them,
Yep.
And they're moving on to a different phase in life than you are or were. You've got sisters and brothers who that dynamic changes.
Yep.
There's a lot of emotions you're managing that night. So being able to help them have a better event is to understand, I think, first, what are they going through? Not just your clients, but the other people at the event as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how can you manage that flow? So for each moment, who's involved? Who's involved for your cake cutting ceremony? What are they feeling? What's that going to be like for that mom watching her daughter? And just all different things, right? All those different moments that you have at a wedding reception, or at a 50th anniversary celebration, or at a 20-year class reunion, which I'm performing here in 2 weeks.
And a lot of those moments you're talking about are things that I think most clients, couples, planners of these parties, they aren't thinking about those moments that way because they have never experienced that. So from your experience, you know that can be a very, very powerful moment, and to prepare them for that and to help set them up for success in that moment, I think is really one of those things I don't think that I thought about 25 years ago at all.
I didn't think about it either. I didn't think about it either 20 years ago. I didn't think about it barely started 10 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
John. It's been more of a recent shift over the last decade of taking that approach and diving a little deeper into that approach. And how does this feel like? And so to me, the formula is for each moment, what are they feeling? How it's ultimately whoever the host is, if it's the bride and groom, or if it's parents, or the 50th anniversary celebration couple, whatever it might be, how do they want that moment presented? And when I ask that question of them in a meeting, at the sales meeting or in a planning meeting, most times they look at me like I have 3 heads.
Yes.
Well, I don't know. I never thought about that. Yeah, I get it. But for that first dance is what I spoke about at Mobile Beat in my presentation Roar about Allison and Cleo, and how she didn't have a father-daughter dance because her father passed away when she was 7. But there was a dance for her and her grandfather. And her grandfather passed away about 15 months, maybe actually a little bit later than that, but it wasn't that long ago. She was married July 27, 2013. So regardless, short time after. And the reality is that knowing gleam, and I showed the picture of the slide of Old Beat, that knowing gleam in that man's eye, he knows what that moment means.
Yeah.
Because of the life he's seen before him and that he's experienced already. And I think you have to put on those glasses. You have to understand the depth of what you are constructing and creating for a couple. You have to have the heart and care. I didn't share this with you yet, John. I only shared it with a couple people, actually. I get a message from a bride. We did her wedding 49 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
The day today. The groom passed away on Wednesday or Thursday this past week.
Mm.
And she sent me a message on Facebook stating how thankful she was 49 months later at the memories that we created that night for her and her husband. And there were many things we did. But I'm sorry, I'm somewhat at a loss for words right now.
Yeah.
Because his funeral's tomorrow. And Tailored Weddings will be sending, at minimum, a nice funeral arrangement for him and his family and his wife.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I've talked with my MC and we're discussing, going or not. And I think that's a question we all have to ask ourselves, how well did you know that person and that kind of thing. But to me, that brings gravity to a situation and handling, what those moments mean,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion.
Oh, for sure. I want to have you dig into that. You mentioned, of course, when you talk about those moments, and they look at you kind of like you're speaking a different language.
Yeah.
I want to jump into that. We're going to take a quick little break here for a couple of spots, and then we'll be right back. And then I want to jump into that a little bit more because that's a huge thing that I've had myself. So I want to make sure we talk about that. So we're going to put a couple of our Monday night sponsors up there because they're some of the companies that help support what we do here at DJN TV. So we've got some here. You guys, check them out.
DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
Top Hits USA from RPM. Our name says it all. Get the latest hits while they're the hottest. With Top Hits USA, you'll have the track for sure. Visit tophitsusa.com or call 800-521-2537 and get a free demo.
So those are the sponsors for our DJN TV shows for summer of 2016. Show them some love, please, because without their support, things like this just wouldn't happen. That's just the way, I mean, it's basically as simple as it is. They are what keeps us going, keeps the lights on. Mitch, before we took the break, you were talking about the moments, and you were talking about that. And I wanted to jump back a little bit when you are back at that client meeting, and you're describing, they're sitting across the table from you, and you're wanting, okay, what do you want the moment to be like? What do you want the crowd to feel? I know you've said that term in conversation before, is, what you, and they look at you like you're coming from a different planet. They're like, huh, what, I don't understand. How do you help to get them on the same page, or to get yourself on their page, maybe is a better way to describe that? How would you deal with that?
I think for me, one of the biggest mind shifts for me over the last 2, 3, 4 years has been personality training. I do the podcast with Vicky Musney, who is a certified personality trainer, and she's helped me immensely in regards to understanding personalities better.
Yes. And
if you have someone who is way more the introvert versus an extrovert like myself, and they're more reserved and, nope, I don't want to show a lot of emotion, and I don't want the spotlight. Oh no, please don't give me a microphone. That kind of thing, then you have to understand, and there are lots of clues that will lead up to that. So it's not like you have to ask that question from the onset, because I never ask that question, or rarely ever, I should say. Never say never, right? I rarely ever ask that question from the onset. So I'll have an idea before I ever get to that point in a meeting in regards to, personality type. And I think one of the biggest things that I discuss from that standpoint is nothing about a wedding, for example, should be fake. Mm-hmm. If you and your dad, and I'll ask them, what's your relationship with your dad like? Just very conversational.
Yes.
And then, oh, he does this, or we do that, or, my dad really wasn't there. It's only been recently where he's gotten back into my life. Or my dad worked over the road as a truck driver for a long time, and long stretches in between seeing them, that kind of thing. You need to know what that relationship is like, because how can you represent someone on a microphone if you don't know what that's like for them, that relationship? So nothing should be fake. And we have that conversation. And then we find out more about, do you want it to be sentimental? Do you want it to be lighthearted?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want it funny? Do you want it to be short but sweet? Do you want to pay tribute to your father? Do you not? What's that relationship like? Are there multiple parents involved? We have that one often.
Yes.
In fact, I just had that recently. The groom's got a mom and a stepmom. He doesn't want to offend his stepmom, but his mom and him are super tight again.
Mm-hmm.
But his stepmom was there for a good part of his life. So how do you manage that delicate balance?
For sure.
And so it's just conversations, I think, and having with them about what they want to create for that moment. And that to me is how you serve your client better. You always have to ask more questions and really get to the root of how they want it to feel.
Right.
And if you get to the root of how you want it to feel, then you can figure out a way in your vast entertainment experience. You produce however many weddings you have. How can you arrive at that outcome? What are the tools available to you? What are the options available to you? And serving clients, I want to make sure I cover one thing super quick, because I mentioned it on the post that I put out about talking about disappearance. Mm-hmm. 2 words. The 2 words that I always fall back to is sum tertius. Sum tertius are the last 2 words of a book called The Closers by Ben Gay III.
Okay.
Early on in my sales career. And those 2 words stuck with me, and they're Latin for I am third. So if you always put your client's needs ahead of your own, you'll come out ahead way more often than not. If you don't, that's okay. I had a recent situation here where I thought it was a good match. I could tell that parents were struggling with some things. Very young daughter getting married, mm-hmm. and it was a very quick wedding. And I'm like, it's not an ideal client, but I'm gonna take a swing, right?
Sure.
And they chose a cheaper option, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. We don't have to do every single wedding, that's for certain. But I was happy to meet with them, obviously no charge whatsoever, and give them some ideas. And, more often than not, you'll come out ahead if you always put your client's needs ahead of your own. For sure.
Question that came up from Pro DJ here, and if you guys have got questions in the chat room, if you're watching it on Facebook, I'm not able to watch the chat as well there. We're on YouTube. Go up into the description. You'll find the link to go to show 1. This is show 1 tonight, and you'll be able to find us. Questions for Pro DJ was asking about how you can serve your clients if they want to be cheap to the point where it makes your presentation. I don't know if it would make the presentation, like your meeting presentation, or maybe the presentation of your show, suffer.
And I guess that is a clarifying question I would ask back to Pro DJ. And Pro DJ, thank you for your question.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Let's take it. Pro DJ, if we're going in the wrong direction, let's just take it from they want to go cheap, and there's things within your show that because most people have the different packages and different upsells, what have you. So if they're going cheap and there's things in your show that you would like to have there because it would be a better fit, but they want to go cheap and not include, say, a video screen, or maybe not include this. How do you serve your clients when you know that they should be buying this, instead they want to buy this?
So to me, it's a difference of tangible versus intangible.
Okay.
And for example, we do have that situation at my company, Tailored Weddings. Our base package does not include a video screen with an instant slideshow or the opportunity to play music videos throughout the night or run montages during first dances. Just basic, right?
Yep.
Basic, basic MC, basic DJ. And the other ones do include it. If a client just decides they just can't afford it, but they really wanted it, I'm sorry, it's just what you got. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But then here's the other thing, okay? You may be thinking to yourself as the DJ, that makes my show suffer, and people are going to see me at this thing, and they're not going to realize all this other stuff I can do.
Yes.
Right?
Oh yes, I've had that mental conversation numerous times over the years.
Here's what you do. You stand out in a different way. Because whatever you do for that event, you have to create, well, in my opinion, I guess it's my show, I guess I can state my opinion.
Yep.
You have to create, or you should be working to create, 1 to 2 to 3 unique moments throughout the night. Whatever that might be. Something that their guests are going to be talking about later on. And trust me, you do not have to have 20 up lights and huge video screens and anything else. You're going to a monogram, motion monogram, whatever, to create something they're going to talk about.
Yes.
For years down the road. You don't, because I've done lots of things that we created out of thin air that people talk about years down the road that didn't include any tangible item.
And I noticed you said 2 or 3 things that people will remember. It wasn't 20.
Nope.
It wasn't 15.
Nope.
2 or 3, because
1 to 3 is my
yeah.
Go for 1 to 3 unique moments. I prefer 2 or 3 in my opinion. And the reason I prefer 2 to 3 is the fact that, and Bill Herman talks about this. Bill's a good friend of both of ours, and he talks about this in the entertainment experience. But you go to a wedding and you show up and you're like, "Ooh, DJ, what are we having tonight? Chicken or chicken?" Kind of thing. And they know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And if you can create 2 or 3 unique things throughout the night that people had no idea was going to happen, you're going to get those referrals.
Mm-hmm.
People are going to remember you, as long as they remember you for a good reason.
Yeah.
And not a bad reason. And that can be something too.
And those 2 or 3 things, I've had instances where one of those surprise moments was the absolute right song at the right time, and it hit the people at the right moment.
Yes.
Doesn't that generally, because of music, that doesn't happen all the time, but you can tell when all of a sudden you've just had that not that I was in a zone, but you happen to just hit the right song at the right moment. The stars lined up, planets were there, everything was perfect, and that you could just see that song touched hearts. But
John, I see another question and I'd like to address. If that's okay.
Yep. Which one are you seeing?
Well, I see 2, but I want to hit the first one from Pro DJ again.
Okay.
Because I think probing that deep could cause anxiety.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Already nervous bride and groom. Yes.
I would exactly with the as off air. Mitch and I were talking a little bit about the couple I was working with this past weekend, and that I would say that would have been exactly the conversation or the direction they would have felt, because if I would have dug in, because they were really an introverted couple, they would have been really uncomfortable with digging into it.
You have to have conversations in advance. It's why I have a certain process of how I do things with the sales process. And conversations in advance need to understand who your clients are as people and what makes them tick and what do they want to create for their event. And when you can showcase yourself as the expert, and that's one of our steps, is to be the expert. When you can position yourself as the expert, they trust you. I had a bride not that long ago, actually. Her wedding was June 7th, 2014. And we performed this ceremony, everything. In January, we're starting to have our very first planning meeting. Mm-hmm. And she comes to me and she says, "I don't know if I can do the ceremony thing. I don't want to walk down that aisle with all those eyes on me."
Yep, I've had that.
Small ceremony and then have a big party. Okay, I get it. And this wasn't a case. Some brides you get where they, they're looking just for the party, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. That wasn't the case with this bride. She very much, in love with him, and very much, wanted to have an event. So one of the things I suggested to her, and this is again knowing your couple, right, was, okay, so what if you don't walk down the aisle? And she's like,
huh?
And I said, okay, I know where you're planning on having this. You're planning on having the ceremony now in a separate room, in a small ballroom, right? Here's what we do. We stage you and your wedding party in the room, and then we invite your guests in. Now they're walking down the aisle, and your eyes are on them versus their eyes are on you. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
She liked the idea, even was going to go for it, and then she changed her mind and completely went to just literally 15 people at their ceremony.
Wow.
Well, them, the wedding party, and their parents. That was it. Maybe 10. It wasn't very many at all, which is still fine, whatever she wanted. But you have to, as a professional, be able to have ideas, just things, think about how you can do things to be able to create a moment for them that fits what they want and who they are.
Okay, bye, hon.
But if I had suggested anything outlandish or over the top for her, we're not going to happen.
Yeah.
Not what she wanted.
Oh, not for sure. And she would have run screaming or crawled under the table.
Yeah.
We got a few minutes, a couple of minutes here before we switch to our second show. Kyle had we got a couple of questions. We're gonna move the second question. How much time do you guys spend on a client meeting? Let's move that to the second show. But let's talk about. Kyle asked about a couple of 2 or 3 things that make an event special. Some of the things that we have done, and I guess, Kyle, the first thing I would say from my own personal experience is it's a much easier to make moments special, as Mitch has talked about. He just gave one here a couple of minutes ago. That was a neat one. But it's much easier when you know the people and you've spent the time to ask those questions, and you find out a little bit about. Now, I've got a wedding that I'm going to be doing later this summer, where I've talked to the couple numerous times and know all about them, because they are like an open book. Here, this is our life. You can, and I can do some things, and I can contour that right to them. And one of the things that I know about this particular bride is that she is in love with the whole concept of like a Cinderella moment. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're going to set up her first dance as, that type of a ballroom Cinderella moment with Prince or that kind of a thing. And it's going to be a beautiful moment, and that will be one of those things that the guests are going to talk about.
Yeah.
Because it's something different, it's something unique. It's going to be surprising to them because they haven't seen DJs in situations around here where when she hits the door, that the lights in the room go down and boom, they're there. And she's walking in as a spotlight, and he's in the middle of the dance floor with a spotlight on him.
Yes.
That's making something special.
And I've done something similar before to that. But the whole point is, I don't do it for every single. If I ever suggest that concept to any other bride, no. I've been over 600 weddings in my career, at least 600, and I've never suggested that idea to anybody else.
Yeah,
it wouldn't necessarily fit anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought it might for her, and it was just brainstorming too, right? We get together, we chat about their day, and okay, what if we did this? Every wedding, blank piece of paper. You can create whatever you want. I don't want them to be limited, only limited by imagination and sometimes budget. That's all they should be limited by, in my opinion. There's certain things you may not be able to do because of venue limitations or concern or restriction or whatever. But besides that, think outside the box of how you can make it happen for them. Another idea. Okay, here's one. Mm-hmm. Had a couple who was doctors, and they wanted a unique kissing activity.
Sure.
So we played the game Operation to get them to kiss. Well, it's a really small board. How are you going to be able to show everybody else what we are doing and how they're getting the bone out, if you will, or whatever, yes. Right? We put a fixed camera on the actual board, put it up on a big screen TV. Now people could actually see. People go in and get the item out and have a microphone set to it for the buzzer, and then voila, people are able to see now, and it was interactive and a part of it versus just that little tiny playing board and no one really know if something's happening or not. Mm-hmm. So get creative, get innovative, and think about how you can create something different for them.
which is the best way for serving your clients with the greatest return for referrals and satisfaction, high satisfaction levels, and the whole 10 yards. It all comes back to that. Cool. Gang, we're going to wrap things up with this show. We're going to be back in just a few minutes. If you go down in the description of the Facebook or the YouTube video, you're going to find a link for show number 2. We make 2 different shows, so that way we don't have the Q&A time get at the end of this video. So thank you guys for watching. We'll be back in about 3 minutes on the second show.